Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys talk about random movies on the internet thanks to the almighty algorithm. And with me, as always, is the amazing, the incredible, the Denzel Washington to my John David Washington, Kyle Mulford. And I'm Noah Saturn. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing good, son. Today's podcast was brought to you by the U.S. Army because we are the podcast that's trying to be all that we can be.
Yes. Something Air Force, Navy, Marines.
Doing good. Speaking of the Army, what movie did we watch this week?
We watched the 1996 drama Courage Under Fire.
Courage Under Fire. Denzel Washington, directed by Edward Zwick, which is actually part of the reason Denzel came onto this project when he was asked, is because he's like, I worked with him on Glory, and I think he won supporting actor or something like that on Glory, actually.
I thought his first Oscar came from Training Day, but I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe it did. Maybe he was up for an Oscar.
Maybe.
Or maybe I'm smoking crack and I don't know anything.
Regardless, he's a good actor.
He's a good actor, and he probably should have more Oscars than he does.
He should have like 5.
Yeah, exactly. So what's this movie about?
It is about the U.S. Army and Lieutenant Colonel Denzel Washington, or whatever his character was named.
Serling or something like that.
Yeah, Nat Serling, Rod Serling, I don't know.
Rod Sterling.
Yep. So he is tasked with investigating and filling out his report to see if that this woman, Captain Karen Walden, who died in combat, whether she is worthy of receiving the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, so he's kind of got to investigate and talk to, because there's like conflicting reports from the people who were there, and so he's trying to figure out what really happened.
Yeah, and this is
this incident.
Desert Storm era, so like early 90s.
Yes. This is in this movie, it was saying something about giving a woman, the first woman, the Medal of Honor. And I read somewhere that there was a lady named Mary Edwards Walker who actually got a Medal of Honor in the Civil War in 1917, but it was not for combat. I think she was a medic or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But this isn't based on a true story or anything. So
yeah, to my knowledge, it is fictional. So I would argue this is a Desert Storm Rashomon.
Yes, it's totally Rashomon. It totally had the Rashomon vibe to it. Talking to different people who were there and getting a different story from each one of them.
Yeah, seeing the same incident from different perspectives.
So, I mean, I guess we should mention that Denzel Washington's character, Serling, we start the movie out, he is a commander in a tank with his gunner in the tank is a small cameo by Sean Astin.
Yeah, Sean Astin. I was surprised to see him. I was like, what are you doing in this movie?
I know. I was watching that going, is that Sean Astin? He's not like even really credited in this movie. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, this is just the beginning part. And then he's not in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, he's in a very tiny part.
Well, what happens is Denzel Washington is a tank commander, and they're in the middle of a tank battle, and some friendly fire happens, and he has Sean Astin shoot another tank that he thinks is an enemy tank, but it turns out to be his friend. And so he doesn't get in trouble or anything. It's still being investigated throughout the movie. And so they kind of delegate him to being another investigator. And then he starts. So since he's in the middle of investigation himself, it seems like he wants the truth to be out because he doesn't want to carry that burden. He's got this guilt throughout the film.
Yeah, and it just eats him alive. Even every time he closes his eyes, you just see his friends burning to death from kills.
Yeah, and it's tearing him apart, and that's why he wants to get to the bottom of this case he's working on so badly, because he sees how it's eating himself up alive, because he can't tell anybody what really happened there until the investigation is over. And then
throughout the film, it's implied that the investigation may just get lost in the paperwork and never come out, because otherwise it might make the Army look bad and make him look bad.
Yeah, and then finally he gets sick of them lollygagging to get to the bottom of it, and he actually leaks the story to a reporter played by Scott Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like kind of the secondary background story, just to give you an idea of what Denzel Washington is going through and his
Yeah, it's kind of the B plot.
motivation. Yeah. But in the meantime, there's a few people like there's a downed helicopter in Desert Storm that is stranded there, and then another helicopter comes in, piloted or the commander on there is played by Meg Ryan, and they come and hit a tank with a fuel reserve, and then they go down, and but after they've taken out enough to get the people out of there, well, a bunch of them make it out except for Meg Ryan, and then they talk to the Denzel Washington talks to the original crew that went down out there, and there was something about an M16 that fired, and that's kind of his trigger for, oh, wait a minute, something's conflicting here with the stories.
Yeah, I know we've got Chekhov's later, but we can spoil that now. It is Chekhov's gun. Literally, this time it is a M16.
Yes, the M16. I think I have that in my notes. The I also have yeah. We'll just talk about the gun first because it's like the M16. Was it out of ammo, or did they hear the M16 going off? Mm-hmm. And then while they're there, there's another guy there from the Pentagon, played by Belky Bartakamos. Bronson Pinchot.
Mm-hmm.
Pinchot. He's in the movie for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they really needed to have the scene with the original guys who were stranded, although that's the catalyst. The one guy's story is the catalyst, about hearing the M16. So I suppose they needed that, but that just kind of went by the wayside. And then the rest was talking to the people that were on the helicopter with Meg Ryan's character, because they were in the thick of it with her. So they know what really happened. And so you get, you get an emaciated Matt Damon.
Yeah, very skinny.
Almost unrecognizably skinny. He was on like this weird diet, and he was running every day, I guess, to get to this point. And I guess, so this is one of his early roles. This was even before Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, it is before that.
And it was Francis Ford Coppola saw him in this movie and loved his method acting, like how skinny he got for the role, and then hired him for The Rainmaker, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently Steven Spielberg saw this movie and liked his performance so much that he wanted to cast him in Saving Private Ryan, but he was afraid that like he wouldn't be right for the role because of all the weight that he lost. But then he put the weight back on, and Spielberg hired him for Saving Private Ryan. So this movie got him the Rainmaker and Saving Private Ryan roles.
Yeah, probably definitely helped his career, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I think that his character was kind of emaciated because he's another character that's just full of guilt. Mm-hmm. And so when Washington talks to him, he's like, oh yeah, she was brave and awesome, and she helped us and all this stuff. And something seemed off to Washington on that.
Yeah, and he's also kind of nervous, chain smoking the whole time.
Oh yeah, just constant cigarette.
And he's asking him about the M16 fire, and then he says he doesn't really remember.
And then he talks to there's one other guy who's in a hospital, so he can't really talk to him because he was burned up and all that. But then he goes and talks to Lou Diamond Phillip, who says that Meg Ryan's character was a coward through the whole thing. So he gives a completely different tale of how, no, it was my idea to throw the tank reserve out and hit it with throw the gas reserve out and hit it with a flare and take out that tank. And she was a coward and crying and blah, 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 and whatever. So, something wasn't matching up, and he didn't, and Denzel Washington didn't really like this guy either, because he was kind of like dodging questions and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then he also ends up going to his reporter, who they've kind of had an antagonistic relationship so far with this reporter from the Washington Post, played by Scott Glenn. He ends up going like, hey man, I need you to help find the third guy who somehow just went missing from the hospital. Like he was in a VA hospital, then transferred out, and the transfer papers were lost, so now they don't know where he is. And at the same time, then like Matt Damon just goes AWOL and drops off the grid.
Yeah. And he just keeps on investigating, and then eventually he remembers something that Matt Damon told him and about where he likes to go, because it was kind of a hint that, oh, I think he wants me to find him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he finds him there and gets the whole story out of Matt Damon, and how it was kind of a combination. Like, they were scared, but like Lou Diamond Phillips didn't like her, and pulled a gun on her, and she was gonna told him that she was gonna court martial him and all this stuff, and then she shot behind him, and he thought that she was shooting at him, so he shot back at her,
And hits
and
her in
then
the stomach, and then she has to deal with that injury all night.
yeah, and then they kind of have to, and then they kind of leave her to die, and Matt Damon is, he was also threatened with the court martial, so like he didn't say anything to go back to save her, so that's why he's so guilt-ridden and emaciated and chain smoking. And
Yeah,
this
because
this
right after
movie,
they leave, they like just bomb the crap out of the place they were at. So we're
yeah,
not
they
sure if
they,
Meg
they
Ryan died
napalmed
of
it.
her injuries or if she died of being bombed by
Yeah, because they dropped
her fellow
napalm on there.
Americans. Yeah, and before we get the real story, there's a big confrontational scene where he goes back to Lou Diamond Phillips, and then Lou Diamond Phillips kind of goes crazy and ends up just like dying by suicide when he rams his car right into a train head on.
Yeah. So this movie, there's a big theme of like talking about, it talks a lot about friendly fire, because both cases had friendly fire in it, and then the guilt that you have from that. And it shows that like friendly fire doesn't necessarily mean that, someone in your company went AWOL and went crazy or whatever. It's chaotic in war and things happen, but like that doesn't mean that you're not just completely guilt ridden when you come back from something like that, even if it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, and it does make an important point of, I guess, arguably the other major theme is PTSD, and it can really destroy someone and really just be harmful of someone, and how people try and deal with PTSD. So Denzel Washington throws himself into his work. Lou Diamond Phillips just tries to ignore it, and it eats him alive. And then Matt Damon, you find out late towards the end, is just like turned to drugs.
Yeah. The other thing that I found that it seemed like it was hitting on was, the army covering stuff up versus not covering it up. And I think, usually you want to know the truth about everything, but sometimes it's like, no, the truth is kind of ugly, but it's not necessarily evil. It's just ugly. And maybe you don't need all that. You just need to know that she was a hero.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to tell, to know what the right answer is for that.
Yeah, it kind of does kind of fall in between in the sense of like, it is post Vietnam in that sense of, cover ups and not being told the truth, hard, ugly truth, lying to the American people. But then also, it's still kind of 90s in the sense that it's pre 9/11. So there's still almost like a rah rah, hoorah sort of go, I guess, go America, USA, USA sort of quality to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot else to say about it. It had a lot of themes going in it, and then you find out, like at the end, they do a little thing where a flashback to when he did hit his friend's tank, and it shows like the medic helicopter flying off with his friend, and you see that it was Meg Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So, she was there when he had his incident too. That's just kind of tying it together, even though it didn't need to. It was just kind of a, hey, let's tie these things together.
Yeah, it was a nice moment to see that they did cross paths at one point.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought Denzel Washington had a really great performance. Like, you could just tell how haunted and guilt ridden and like he was, and it just really showed in his acting and his face.
Yeah, I mean, Denzel's one of the greats, and we know that, and this is just further evidence that he is, of course, one of the best actors of his generation, arguably of any generation, really. And it would not have worked without Denzel in that spot. Any lesser actor, I don't think you'd buy it quite as much.
Yeah, because the thing I will say about this is this was shot by Roger Deakins. So the great Roger Deakins was the cinematographer on this, and I didn't find it all that spectacular. This really this was made in this is a 1996 movie. It really felt like a 90s drama. Like the look and the feel and everything felt very 90s to me.
Yeah, stylistically, I don't think it was anything special, but of course, it still looked nice. He still did the job. Roger Deakins, of course, knows how to do it. I don't know how much of it they had to rein him in, or because I know there's been some situations where like I know Roger Deakins working with the Coen brothers. Sometimes they can just let him go nuts.
Yeah,
Really kind of
this one seemed like very low key Roger Deakins.
Yeah, still good Roger Deakins, but very restrained.
Yeah.
Nothing too
And
fancy.
even the score was very 90s drama, and it was done by James Horner, who's done stuff like Willow, Rocketeer, Apollo 13, and dun 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 Battle Beyond the Stars.
Nerd.
Yeah, so even had a great composer, but it still felt, I think that was the downfall of this. The downside of this movie was it felt very generic 90s drama. The way it was shot and the score and everything. I think it was a good movie. And maybe we can go into recommendations now, unless you have, or I mean, whether you recommend it or not, unless you have anything else you want to say about it.
Yeah, I recommend this for Denzel Washington and for Meg Ryan's performances. Both really good performances.
And I would too, even though I say it kind of looks and feels like a generic 90s drama. The performances do elevate it a little. So I would still recommend this film.
Yeah,
And honestly, what's that?
Watch it for Denzel. He's the heart.
Yeah, and honestly, I ended up renting the DVD, so I don't remember what streaming service this is on.
I watched it on Hulu.
Okay, so it's on Hulu. So yeah, I'd recommend this movie. Let's see. Before we go into our double feature, we already talked about Chekhov's M16. I put Chekhov's Friendly Fire.
Oh no!
Because at first it was like, why are we watching his thing at the beginning? It didn't make sense to me, and then it's like, oh, because we're kind of seeing, because we eventually find out that this was a friendly fire situation as well. So, but anyway, what would you recommend? Since we both recommend the movie, what would you recommend with it?
For a double feature, I know we talked about, and this is a sort of a military drama / kind of thriller-ish. So I'm thinking I would have to go kind of more the thriller route with a military involvement. Much more paranoid than this one ever was. I'd go with, and I just forgot what the name of it was. Come back to me. Okay. I gotta Google it quick.
Okay.
Frank Sinatra.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure then. I'm going a little different route. This one felt very like it almost felt procedural, even though it wasn't in a courtroom or anything. Like he's investigating what's going on with what happened there and getting the stories of what happened and trying to piece things together. So I'm going with a military courtroom drama that I absolutely love. A Few Good Men.
That's definitely a good choice. Same basic era.
Yeah.
It does have a sort of a mystery element to it as well. Yeah, for mine, I just remember what it was called. For mine, is the more paranoid thriller, The Manchurian Candidate, at least the original.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Didn't the remake star Denzel?
It might have, yes.
Yeah. So the original with Frank Sinatra and
Angela Lansbury.
Evil Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
Is great. And that one's kind of creepy for now because it came out like summer of 1963 and has a scene very similar. And then, of course, the president and Kennedy was shot in November of 1963.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, Courage and Fire, good film. Like it feels very 90s, but it's still a good solid drama from the mid 90s, and you should go out and watch it. And let's get to what our next movie is going to be that we'll talk about.
I'm excited.
All right, going 70 or better, all genres, and spin.
Spin, 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 spin.
Okay. We have Haley Parker and Annie James are identical twins separated at a young age because of their parents' divorce. Unknowingly to their parents, the girls are sent to the same summer camp where they meet, discover the truth about themselves, and then plot with each other to switch places.
This sounds like it could be some sort of ensnarement or
Of a guardian
a
type
guardian or
person,
something.
a
I
legal
don't know.
guardian experiment.
Legal guardian or like an elder, like the child's a guardian of some sort. I'm going to call it child guardian ensnarement.
Yes, that's exactly it. This is the 1998 Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap, and it is streaming on Disney Plus. I actually don't know if I've ever seen this one. We last year, I think it was, we watched the original with our kids. So
Yeah, that
this would
was
be
with
interesting to see this.
Haley Mills, right?
Yes. So yeah, I don't know if I've seen this one. So I know that Lindsay Lohan went a little crazy, but she was a good child actor.
Yeah, it seemed like for a while this movie was kind of everywhere and would play on ABC Family, now called Freeform, just like all the time.
Yeah. I remember this one being around a lot, and I don't know why I never saw it, unless I did, and I just don't remember it very well. But
You're like,
yeah,
okay,
because
now I'm
she
going to
she did
see.
this one in Freaky Friday with didn't she do it with Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah, Freaky Friday was almost a decade later. It was like 8 years later, but I think this one and then Life Size came out around the same time.
Okay, so yeah, Parent Trap, 1998 on Disney Plus.
Yep. Gee, can't imagine what that's going to be like. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about in the episode. I just remember it's one of those movies like we're like, okay, flipping channels, like, okay, here's like the last fourth of it, here's like the middle third of it, here's the beginning. So like you've kind of watched it, but never all the way through in one sitting.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe it'll be a short episode next time, or maybe
Who
we'll have a lot
knows?
to talk about.
Maybe there'll be a really long episode.
But anyway, till then, you can find us online. I'm on Twitter at AwesomeKM.
I'm on Twitter at Noah_Saturn, SATERN.
And we're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, We Don't Know What to Watch at gmail.com. And until next time, hold your fire.
Yep. And I'm Denzel Washington, and you love me.
Yes, we all love you.
Mm-hmm.